The landscapes of our lives are for learning, where experience is our teacher. When we gather together to share our resources, we are destined to love and thrive.
Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning, Pierre.
Woo!
How art thou?
Oh, really? Oh, that's so cool that you use that phrase. My weekly newspaper article is on Shakespeare this week.
Nice.
Yeah,
The Bard.
I randomly found a book, a little kid's book on a picnic table, and who finds a book on Henry V on a picnic table? So anyway, but that's kind of an aside.
We're talking about forgiveness today because we did a learning practice
Right.
and we ran out of time, and we promised that we would talk about forgiveness. And I was thinking, I was thinking about it this morning. So let's chat about that. What can we learn about forgiveness?
Let's chat about that. Yeah, as I recall, and I do recall, I said that actually it was a minister and somebody who was in the 12-step program it said to me that, forgiveness is one thing, but you're probably overlooking the fact that you've judged, and you might not be starting from the right place, and consider, what you've judged and why. And that's probably not something that's in your bailiwick. And if you didn't judge, then, forgiveness would sort of take care of itself. And it slapped me in the face, in the sense that, it's like one of those aha moments, and it's a long time ago and I never forgot it. And you said, gosh, I'm not sure I understand that. So
it's the judgment thing. And I wonder, maybe we should have a little learning practice on that as a word, judgment, because I know we've talked before in previous podcasts where I think we talked about Socrates and wisdom and whatever, and it ended up us talking about like this judgment thing. And I think I distinguished it from discernment, because I think, judgment, what are we talking about when we mean judgment? It's sort of, I think in the context of forgiveness and what we're talking about now and what you were just talking about, you're starting in the wrong place if you're judging. I think that creates separation to judge something as what you think about it. Either say it's a good thing that you're judging someone's behavior, for instance, or it's a bad thing. And then
right.
You interpret the person's behavior, you put a valence to it, you give it meaning, you make some value judgment about what it means. And then I think it's also linked to sort of taking things personally. It's like, right, when you attach that meaning, it's like now there's a judgment there about what that means to me, right? Your behavior, what it means to me.
Yeah, let me just grab on to a couple of those concepts there. You said it creates separation. Boom. We're in a world where people are judgy. I love that word, judgy. And it's creating tremendous divides. And then those judgments are being driven by a lot of narratives that are in the press. And I just read an article in the New Republic by the editor. It was just a polemic. I couldn't believe what I was reading. There wasn't really facts and information brought to the table, news reporting. I know it's an opinion magazine, but so this was dialed over the top. Okay, so separation, judgment, and then the other thing I want to grab a hold of is inside, right? So we talk about good and evil and the world just being one, and it is. And that's the enlightened view from the inside, and you don't take it personally. Now, as you walk around in the world, Do you have to discern, as you said? And do you
Yes.
have to make decisions about how you're going to interact with another person or situation?
And think critically, critical discernment, critical judgment, not negative judgment, separation, pushing away, but you do judge things. You judge things to be healthy for you or not. You judge things to be, one way. We can't escape judgment. That's why I think we need to clarify is what is the judgment that we're talking about? The type that is accusatory kind of and pushing away and really overly critical, negatively critical. Because I think we have to clarify that because
Well, let's
judges have
go.
to judge the
Right,
evidence, right? They have to
right,
make a
right,
judgment call. Like it's okay to make a judgment call, right?
right. But this
So
is all within the context of forgiveness, and this is right up your alley where words, you're into words, right? And
yeah,
words have these meanings that, and this is a perfect example. They're kind of like a Mobius, where there's an inside and outside edge. It'll like a bag where there's something on the outside of the bag, but there's something on the inside of the bag. And I think judgment is like that. So if in the context of our conversation around forgiveness, we're talking about judgment, there's there's a blame, and there's a separation that takes place, and there's a I'm right, you're wrong. You might judge yourself wrong, but there's a good and evil. And when you really look at the universe from its totality and an enlightened kind of grounded place, call it maybe a spiritual place or an energetic place, that person that just shot everybody or did something, uh, I mean, the universe is just unfolding, in a certain way. And,
right. But I think we're talking about morality. Okay. Because you just said you're talking about blame and right and wrong
right,
and good and evil. And yes, I agree with you. And I don't know if it's an enlightened place or not. I don't love the word
right,
enlightenment, but
right,
I know, we struggle to like articulate what it is we really mean because these concepts are big and they're hard to talk about. But I think we're talking about human morality because we're talking about people and behaviors, and we're living together. We're social animals. We don't live in isolation. So we, yes, we judge, but that's different from blame. And that I think you're right with the use of the word blame because it's a pointing of a finger. Okay. And right, it's like that's
right,
that's you, and then there's that separation and it's me and what it means and all of that.
right, right,
Forgiveness, I think, let's bring that back in there. And I
right.
think of Oprah. I remember watching this on Oprah, and I'm sure she's not the one who coined this, but when you're pointing one finger towards someone else, three fingers are pointing back at you. And
Oh yeah,
actually
right,
that's in my book. I use that in my book too.
right,
I
right.
have a whole chapter on blame. And forgiveness is it's the opposite of blaming, maybe. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I
It's
think I think you're
it's
onto
just taking
something there.
responsibility for my own feelings and my own thoughts and opinions about X behavior. And
Hmm.
rather than, pointing towards that behavior and that person and separating myself from that
Hmm.
and judging it,
Hmm.
right, as whatever I think it means to me.
Hmm.
And then just staying there in that place of oh, that, that person did this to me, that behavior means this to me. And
Mhm.
that can be where you stay and blame. But forgiveness,
Well,
I think, is letting go of that. It's like, it's pointless to blame. That happened. That person did that. I can stay with what it means. I'm wounded. I'm hurt. That's not right. It's not okay. Or I can just understand my own feelings, heal my own wounds and feelings, and be responsible for my feelings. And it has nothing to do with the other person, right?
yeah, I think that you said that forgiveness might be the opposite of blame. And I like that. And I think that puts the forgiveness in the same perspective that I was talking about before as the follow on to judgment. And the reason it's so powerful is when people are carrying around blame and separation and there's negative energy there, then forgiveness releases that. And I think it's a very powerful concept. And God knows we all walk around with this stuff. I used an example of shootings, um, and it's so hard. I remember struggling with moral questions, particularly as a younger person in the Catholic context. And would I fight somebody if they were, it was the Cold War, if they were going to, invade our country, or if my mother was at risk to be shot, or something like that. I remember struggling with that and the nonviolent question. But I'm going to take it forward to, um, the people who have had despicable things happen to them. And I'm thinking about, I'll think about it in history, World War II, and and the people that forgive the Nazi murder machine which operated on ethnic basis and a personal vindictive basis that had no no basis. And it's kind of like the color of your skin or your religion or something. And and they and they've adopted an attitude of I guess grace, and we could talk about that, or forgiveness, or they've come around to understand that um in the most basic terms, it's not healthy to operate on the basis of separating yourself from these other
Yeah.
individuals. And forgiveness, the great
Or
book
to
that
stay
was
with blame, because it's a dynamic. You're staying in a dynamic.
right,
And there's like separation, resistance, whatever, tension in that dynamic. And
right,
when you can choose, like Viktor Frankl, speaking of World War II, and you can choose to blame and judge and just stay there and live with that as your modus operandi, and just be furious and angry and hurt and resentful and whatever. Or you can choose to let go of that, and you're free. You get outside that tension. You get outside that being locked in with your aggressor. Yeah, you're the victim. We're all a victim at one point or another, but you can take responsibility for your own wounding. And that's what Viktor Frankl said. I forget, I wrote the quote in my book, but it's sort of like, it's Bikram said it too. No one can steal your peace without your consent. What's going on inside of your own subjective experience? Everything's internal, right? And you
right,
have control over that. You have the responsibility to know what your feelings are, feel your feelings, understand your own thinking, and make your own choices about what to do, about what happens to you or for you, right? And so you can choose to let go. Like, I felt so much freedom when I had to aggressively practice forgiveness, of my ex-husband. Like when we divorced, I was like, I want to forgive. So for me, it's like, oh, letting someone off the hook, like whatever. It happened. The behaviors happen, is over. Now, do I want to stay locked into that story, or do I want to be free? And it was like, it took some time, but like with deliberate, intentional practice, I did it. And
These are the internal workout from withins that you advocate,
yes,
and the classic wisdom that you're bringing forward, and the amazing, and we're kind of going through this and offering up resources to how you do this. Our society's very blind, at least that's my opinion. Oh, there it is, you opinion. We I think you said it or somebody said it. We don't have a lot of ritual around around going inside and quieting and meditating. We have a lot of, I suppose you could call it ritual around, work ethic and capitalism and getting ahead and asserting yourself as an individual. I just want to go back to one other story, Maureen. And you probably read the book Laura Hillenbrand, Unbroken.
oh
and,
yeah,
it was a movie. And you've
yeah,
got this guy, Louis Zamperini, and he was a runner. And in running, he put himself to the edge, went to the Olympics in Berlin. And then he was taken prisoner of war after horrific sea trials in a raft. And he had a particular, not just guard, but a guy who ran the prisons that tortured him. And he forgave that person. And it's an amazing story. And it embodies a lot of what we're talking about, how people get to those places, and how this person would ever get to that place given what he experienced. It's just remarkable. But then he does, and it's just amazing.
yeah. I think you were on to something with the how to, and I think that is why one of the reasons why I wrote my book. It's like, I know people talk, and there's a lot of self-help, and there's a lot of memes that are posted, and it's like, oh, the Stoics said this, and Viktor Frankl said this.
Right.
But how do I implement that in my everyday experience? That's the work that, people do in therapy. And also, we are so busy, as you say, in modern culture. There's a lot of action and behavior happening all the time, which is fine, but like, we don't take time to reflect, to rest, not enough time to
Right.
and again, I've been saying this to my clients too, like, this is what you're here in therapy for, the 1 hour a week, and I don't know how many hours are in a week, but the 347 other hours that you're not with me, like, you're living your life, you're having your experiences. This hour is your opportunity to just step back and reflect on what happened this week. What were your experiences like? What did you learn about what yourself, what can we learn about yourself while you're here with me, based on reflecting? And I think culturally, we don't take time to reflect, whether it's, you say meditation, and I think people say, oh, that's just another thing I have to do. It's like, I think going to mass kind of was a place where people could, for 1 hour, make it a ritual to go and sit in and be, and and reflect and think about their moral behavior and their values and kind of stuff like that, and their spiritual being. And I think we're just so busy and so externally
No,
focused.
you're
So,
right. You're right. I
yeah.
looked it up. Not that I'm smart, but there's 168 hours in a week.
Okay,
So,
great. Now I can
you're
be more
less.
accurate.
So it's less than, 1% that's happening if you're 1 hour per week, reflecting in a therapy or doing meditation or something. But yeah, I kind of think that's what our podcast is about, the how, right? Because there are these resources out there, and we're going to get to it in a reflection that's coming up where we talk about the paradox of resources. There are all these resources out there, but the use of them and the how. And I think what's so interesting and why we started podcasting is that suddenly at this moment in history, there's a convergence around the how. People are understanding that the mind, oh, wait, hold on, wait for it, mic drop. The mind and the body are connected, and the spirit too. And people are talking about that, and not just and so this thing is rising up or getting connected. I like that better, and understood better, rather than think about how medicine was. You go down to the doctor's office, and you get a shot or you get a pill or something, and totally aren't they?
Well, we're finding out if that's not working. We've had enough years now where that narrative and that way of dealing with health issues and challenges, human challenges, is not the only way in one way, that the pharmaceutical companies have overrun us with a marketing campaign. And we're finding that, going to the doctor to get a pill is a narrative that's so limited. And that's why I love Huberman, because he talks about behavioral tools, which is what we have as resources already within us, not just resources out there, but the resources within us that we already have as human beings, if we just understood how we work.
Right. And we made a sweeping statement, or I made a sweeping statement there. And let me just put some facts to it. The people are dying, and they're dying from lifestyle diseases. And that is becoming very, very clear, and it's starting to drill down into our system. And I used to work for a pharmaceutical company, so I'm not putting I don't want to throw pharmaceutical companies under the bus.
I will. Okay.
And there are plenty of buses out there, but just coming back to these lifestyle diseases and a better understanding of what we're dealing with here.
Right.
And so, yeah. So we're kind of went down the road from forgiveness, but we explain that for your?
Well, I think initially what we were talking about before we recorded was, I had the question of like, what is if forgiveness is some sort of letting go. And I said to you, I heard Andrew Huberman talking on another podcast about like, what the hell is letting go? And it made me think like, yeah, what the fuck is that? Like, and back to the how too, like, okay, you just have to let go. People say this all the time, right? Like, just let it go,
Right.
Okay, how, and what am I letting go? What am I letting go of? And how do I let go? And what does that all mean?
Right.
And I think in the context of what we've been saying, maybe it's letting go of judgment and blame and taking responsibility for soothing one's own suffering and whatever one is experienced within themselves as a subject, because it's
those
all internal.
Fingers pointed back at yourself, right? When you point the finger. Yes, I think that's right.
Right. Letting go of the focus being on, say, that other person who trespassed you, and just focusing on soothing your own wounds, taking responsibility for your own feelings. I'm outraged, I'm furious. But if you just keep pointing that finger at the person, that doesn't heal you. That doesn't soothe your, it might make you feel good in the moment to lash out or.
Well, it's been tried over the centuries. And what does it lead to? It leads to, clannishness and, wars, essentially. I mean, at the end of the day, it just gets crazy.
Okay, and then so all of the suffering that you're dealing with inside, do you go to your doctor and say, I need a pill because I don't want to feel this, or I need a pill to make this go
Yes,
away?
absolutely.
Well, that's
People
been
do
the
it every
narrative,
day.
but
Yeah,
because the other way requires work. And I'm not saying all medication is bad for all, medication has
of
its
course not.
place,
Of course not.
100%.
Right.
But the last thing I'm gonna say is, you said something
Is it
about
really? Okay, wait.
lifestyle. I wanted to add on to the lifestyle thing. You said so many of our diseases today are lifestyle based. Do you
Right.
know, Pierre, people don't want to hear that. They will disagree with that because they're so tightly held on to, no, not for me. I have fat genes in my background. I have this and that. It's genetic. They just pull these stories out of the air that aren't necessarily true. A very small percentage of people have genetic diseases, like 4% or something. Like, it's crazy number. Mostly it's epigenetic. We are predisposed to certain things in the environment, and when they come together, fine. Yeah, you can have illness that way. But as you say, most of what we're struggling with in America today is lifestyle. But I'll tell you, when you said it, it's like, that's an assumption, like, oh, everybody knows that.
Oh, I
So
see.
many
Yes,
people
right.
do not want to believe that. They don't want to believe it because that means they have to take response. It's because of the way I'm behaving, and I
Well,
have to do something about that. I have to change, and I don't want to.
yeah, well, I think that's true, and it's a good and valid point that you make. I did skip over that. People aren't accepting of it, but
No, you didn't skip over it.
but
Yeah, no.
the fact of the matter is, the people who are responsible for health are skipping over it. That's one of the,
Well, there's money to be made with products and services, right? That you can sell to people. And again, that's not an all or nothing thing either. There's also massage therapists. There's also a lot of people who can help you with, like, fine, right? Like, you can go get, products and services to help you. I think there's just a huge imbalance that we run to those things first instead of the workout within. Wait, you have resources inside you already. Let's find out what those are first. Let's try to
I
utilize
think we're going to
those
come
and
back.
then also get outside help.
Yeah, I think we're going to come back to this subject because it is the podcast. It's working out within, and not only the resources, but it's like the how-tos. And when you start to go inside, well, I'm just going to try and wrap up here.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. I mean, there's also some
Really?
crazy. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, it is. It is. Think about it. I mean, maybe we should. I thought I was going to wrap up here.
I mean, not for people who are, I don't think that's okay, beautiful, but there's suffering there too. I mean, there's a lot of pain and suffering inside us too, which is the incentive for a lot of people not to want to go there.
Well, yeah,
Skeletons in the closet.
I'm sort of the Mr. Brightside guy, but I'm speaking from experience. You can wander the landscape, you can go through the self-help resources, and you can work, whatever that means. But until you go inside and deal with that baggage, that wreckage, that suffering, that pain, you don't find a more beautiful place than dealing with that stuff at
where
the
the
end
truth
of the day.
lives. That's where the truth lives. Yeah. And I knew that's where you were going. And
I could see you smiling there.
no,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, in filth it shall be found. Like that, honestly, I gotta get that.
No mud, no lotus.
Yeah. And that's where it is. And that's it's like back to the Bikram yoga. How do you sell this yoga where come on in and suffer for 90 minutes? It's like, you're working out within. That's what, and it's hard and it's hot and it's like hell. And but that's where the lotus lives. That's where the growth is. That's where the beauty is. That's where the truth lives. It's union, that's the yoga, right? And that's the whole human
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Somehow.
So I
don't
think I'll be
know,
more
like
willing to forgive more often, because that comes from inside me. Yeah, that forgiveness lives in us. It lives inside. Yeah.
right. Well, that's a beautiful thing. And I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
That was
I
that was
feel
well
good. I feel like I
accomplished.
got a lot out there, and yeah, I feel good about this.
Well, that about says it all. I'm going to jump in first. I'm Pierre from Yoga Heals, and I'll have to do some yoga after this. And who are you?
Maureen from Landscapes for Learning. Learn to live and then live to learn.
Awesome. Peace through grace, Maureen. Peace through grace.